is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again, and this time we are here with Krista of the Almighty Lutharo. It is great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for coming on today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. The new single that you just released is Ruthless Bloodline. Absolutely kick-ass single, and it definitely left me wanting more. Is this maybe a good representation of like what the follow-up to Hiraeth is going to sound like, or is that just one little taste of what's to come?
I would say a little taste of what's to come because this, everything that's going to be coming up for us is very all over the place. We really experimented a lot. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we really came out of our shell with a lot of things. So,
Was
yeah.
there at all any sort of like preconceived vision in a way, or was it all experimentation the whole time with not really being confined to anything?
Honestly, just experimentation. But we didn't really have any ideas going into anything. We were just kind of like, well, let's see what comes out.
Yeah. With Hiraeth, the first album that you put out, which is a extraordinary album too, and I still listen to it like it just came out. Being, you have your whole life to make your first album, but being that you released an EP before this, was this representative of what Lutharo was at the time in a way? And are you going to maybe sort of like stick with that similar sort of persona?
It definitely, I feel like with writing the entire album, it kind of solidified our sound in a way, but we're still growing so much and like experimenting so much. I feel like we have so many different influences that it would be hard to stay on one path. So it's kind of hard to say, if that's where we're going to stay or not. I don't think so. But
Well,
yeah.
well, I mean, what sleeps in your mind and To Kill or To
Mhm.
Crave is very different from a track like Phantom or Eclipse or Lost in a Soul in a way. So trying new things has got to be, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's definitely, I would say, more flexible, right?
For sure. I think if we had like one specific sound that we were sticking to, it'd kind of get boring for us because like I said, we have so many different influences and our music tastes are changing so constantly and rapidly. So it's hard to just be like, okay, we're gonna write an album that sounds like this, and then we're gonna keep sounding like this. It's just not us.
Yeah. As a vocalist, do lyrics or a lyrical idea maybe help dictate the direction of the music in a way?
Um, Usually the instrumental stuff is written before the lyrics and the melodies, so I kind of just take whatever the guys have written and just put my spin on it, however it makes me feel, or if I have lyrics that I had written before and I'm like, oh, this would be perfect for this song, I just kind of slap it on there and then, yeah, pretty much.
Do you approach things from a conceptual standpoint? Because I felt like, especially with the style of Lutharo, and people would assume upon hearing like the first note, like, oh, this is a sort of power metal band, so they're probably telling some sort of story or something like that. So are the lyrics approached from a very personal point of view, or is there a lot of external sources of inspiration?
I feel like I drew a lot of inspiration from external places, so to say, for Hiraeth. But a lot of it comes from in me, just like my own experiences, my own feelings, my own emotions, just life experiences in general. And I started to notice when writing Hiraeth that everything became a pattern about what I was writing about. So, I mean, it wasn't a crazy concept, so to say, but everything just kind of like formed together. And I was like, oh, I'm really going through this at this time, or I'm really like starting to awaken to these feelings or see these patterns in other people. Why not group that all together in an album? It's not like a fairy tale story or anything, but
But
yeah.
with the new album coming out, with this new single, are you planning to maybe combine these albums together in a way? Like, is there a pattern that you've discovered now with making a second album in a way where like they kind of want maybe this new album was like a sequel in a way?
Um, Kind of. There are songs that are on there. Like there's one without giving it away, there's one that is like a sequel to Wings of Agony for me personally. It doesn't sound anything like it, but the story kind of rolls into it for myself and everything that I was going through. It's like everything that I didn't want to talk about while writing Wings of Agony, that was like just too raw at the moment, is now on this album and specifically in this one song. So yeah, so with Hiraeth, there are some things that kind of roll into it, but I would say Wings of Agony more so. It's almost like I revisited that old wound from that EP.
I was gonna ask if that song was your most personal one, because I just like that was the track that kind of stood out for me in a way where like it really was a standalone track. And if it's too personal, you don't have to say it, but like with now sort of making like a sequel to Wings of Agony, you just kind of answered this. It was almost reopening a wound to sort of
Yes.
for that source of inspiration. I mean, cliche to ask, but how was that? That had to have been. Was it like traumatic or like deteriorating in that songwriting process?
It was pretty awful. I have to say, like, I don't think a lot of people knew what I was going through when I was writing specifically this one song. Because it was really hard for me to write that, like physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. When I would start to write about it, I would start to get like like lightheaded and shaky, and I'd have to like stop because it was almost like I'm revisiting that emotion once again that I just like I'm trying to deal with. I feel more ready to deal with now, and like putting it down on paper just like kind of solidified it. And I was like, okay, this is scary to talk about. So yeah, I don't think even the guys really realized how emotional that one was for me until they heard me sing it in the studio and they saw the lyrics and they're like, oh shit, this is really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very I would say lyrically analyzing it, it's a tough song to like interpret, and I think it's admirable that you were able to express what needed to be expressed on that, because bottling up your emotions as an artist is a lethal endeavor, to say the least. So that's very admirable. But if you're working on this for a longer period of time, does that make it a little bit more difficult to sort of maintain that emotion in a way?
100%. I think like with this whole new album, it was, like I said, reopening a new wound, everything that I hadn't been dealing with and just kind of like shoved down and wasn't ready to write about, I wrote about. And so it was like months of writing and months of just feeling very crappy because I was constantly in this state of mind where I had to be writing about these stories and putting myself back in that place again. And so you wouldn't think that it would be that draining, but it is when you're going through it, because it almost feels like you're there again.
And revisiting, but you also grow and develop so much as an artist. So does that maybe allow you to, has making art about it maybe allowed you to look back at this with a new perspective, and maybe if God forbid a terrible situation happens again, that maybe you did you find like almost an essence of healing through this as much as it was deteriorating?
100%. And there are so many songs where it's almost like I dissociated when I was writing them, and then I would go back to them and read them or listen to the song after and be like, holy crap, that makes a lot of sense. I can't believe I wrote that down. That's like completely what, like, it was almost like I was reading someone else's words, but they were my own. I don't know how to explain it. And I was like, oh, okay, I pretty much nailed that. That's crazy. I feel like with Hiraeth, there were some songs, once again, where I was kind of in denial about what was going on with myself, and I would like almost blame it on other people and be like, oh, okay, this is what I'm seeing in this person, so I'm going to write about it, when really it was like me almost mirroring that, or like casting a shadow on that. And I was like, oh, I'm actually seeing myself in this person. And I caught myself doing that with Lost in a Soul. I was just like, one day I realized, because I like had it in my head for so long, I was like, oh, this song is about this person, blah, blah, blah. And then I had a moment of like, No, the song is about me.
Um,
I was just too blind to see it.
well, depending on what a song is about, if it's something more personal or something more external, does it maybe resonate with you differently, or do you feel like you maybe channel a different energy into that song when writing it or performing it?
Yeah, I feel like it's easier to deal with sometimes when you can be like, oh, I'm writing a story about somebody else and then blame it on that, basically. And it's easier to perform, it's easier to get out in a sense when you're not like having to deal with the issues face on, be like, oh, that's someone else.
You're
Yeah.
you're able to approach it from a literal and metaphorical standpoint. I think it's fair to say, right?
Yes.
Yep. In order
Mhm.
to get the inspiration, the creative energy, do you almost look for it? Do you seek out inspiration, or does it just strike you?
I feel like it just strikes me. I whenever something happens that I'm like, oh, that would be really cool, or that's a really cool idea. I always write it down. I'm constantly looking for things like that, like quotes or just I don't know, random written things or feelings that I get. Like when we were on tour, I was constantly feeling a bunch of different emotions and I was just writing it down the whole time I was there. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this as ammunition for next time kind of thing. But yeah,
Do you do
just
you, do you prefer to write or come up with ideas when you're more alone in isolation, or do you prefer to maybe be in the company of your bandmates when coming up with new ideas?
when I'm writing lyrics and stuff, I'm usually alone. A lot of it happens at like if I'm working for some reason, like I'll just be walking around. I think because I have so much time to just be in my head and like ruminate a little bit. So a lot of it happens when I'm on my own. But there are times when we're at practice and stuff, and I'll come up with lyrics, and a lot of melodies will happen at practice too, where the guys are just like noodling around or like coming up with a riff, and I'm like, wait, stop. I want to try something, and then like that will inspire something else, and so on.
Silly question. Do you think we'll ever run out of riffs one day?
No. No,
No.
I think yeah, as long as new people are being born and willing to like be inspired by different things, there's always going to be new things. There's going to be new spin-offs of old things and completely new things, and yeah, everything's just going to keep recycling, and yeah.
Okay. I mean, recycled riffs is one thing, but like I'm starting to
Yeah.
wonder if like unless, every guitar has as many strings as a harp eventually, like how many riffs can we possibly reuse in a way? I'm
It's
always
true.
I'm always worried that metal would fall into the sort of pop curse where the same pop hit uses the same four chords, so part of me worries that riffs might suffer the same fate.
Yeah, I think like yeah, maybe I mean a lot of the same riffs have been played or will be played, but it all comes down to the person playing them and what they put into it too, right? That will make all the difference. It doesn't matter if it's the same notes or whatever, like if they're putting a certain amount of emotion or feel into something, it's going to make it completely different.
Yeah, definitely. And like the same riff played during a different feeling can make it a completely different riff the whole time.
100%.
Yep.
Yep.
There's actually a funny video where somebody took Nothing Else Matters by Metallica and just made it major. And it sounds like the most positive song in the world.
I was gonna say so pretty and
Yep.
like
That,
woo.
yeah, it's called Everything Matters or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
So, pretty funny. I recommend looking that up on YouTube. Just Nothing Else Matters major key.
Will do.
Yep.
That's pretty funny.
And I know it's always cliche to ask what your inspirations are, but you've mentioned that there are many different musical inspirations that is key to Lutharo's style. So I'm just wondering, for you on a technical level, who are some of your vocal inspirations? Because I think you have a incredible range that like you can compare your voice to like dozens of different vocalists.
Thank you. I mean, Angela Gosso was the first person that I really got into for screaming. She's always been like one of my biggest influences. When I started to fry scream, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God was like, ah, for me. He was like my template of learning. Alexi from Children of Bodom. Those two were like my, yeah,
Rest in
my
peace.
ultimate for like just learning how to scream again in a different way. They're like, yeah. As far as clean singing goes, I'm kind of all over the map. Like I'm really into Whitesnake, so I love what's his name?
David Coverdale.
Coverdale? Yes. Yep. Yeah. He's like, oh God, can't think of it. I'm drawing blank. Yes, love his voice, love everything they're doing and have done. Beth Hart is one of my favorite vocalists. She's a blues singer, and you wouldn't expect it because, like, I mean, I'm singing like basically power metal when I'm singing, but her voice is so warm and deep and like, I don't know how to explain it. She's just so like groovy when she sings, and I love it. I love things like that. I don't know. There's too many to name, but those are like some very, my ones on the top, basically. My most important.
Question. What's your favorite Children of Bodom album?
That's too difficult.
Really?
Yes, so I was watching Victor, our guitar player, and Daniel DK. They were doing a stream, and they were breaking down all of the Children of Bodom albums and like ranking them from like best to worst.
Yep.
And I was like, damn, I don't even know now. Like, now that you bring it up, and like, there's so many good songs on this one. Like, I feel like it's just, there's too many good ones and too many ones that like just have bangers on them. And then like maybe some songs, and then like some are stronger. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Can you believe Hate Crew Death Roll's 20 years old this year? So
that's insane.
Yeah, and Angels Don't Kill is, I think, one of the best, like, I guess, death metal ballads, if you could call it like that, or something like that. That's a slow tempoed song like that. That song, yeah. Children of Bodom is like the reason I play piano the way I do. Like, Warman is my piano idol. So when somebody holds Children of Bodom as an influence, I'm like ready to nerd out on them.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people don't mention them. Like, they're not underrated in a sense, but like people, like, I feel like don't mention them as an influence as much, and I'm just like, why not? Yeah. They're like,
Alexi Laiho was effectively the Van Halen of death metal. So
yeah, honestly, like, it's crazy the things that he was doing on guitar and screaming at the same time, something completely different. Like, his brain is just like split in two different ways. Like, that's insane.
I never understood how people can do that. Like, I just saw Metallica recently, and just watching James Hetfield sing and play Master of Puppets. Yeah, it's like absurd that anybody can do that. Like, singing and playing is like almost like a separate instrument than just playing guitar or just singing. I feel
100%. I agree.
Yeah. I don't even think like your brain, you can really learn how to do that. I think you have to have some sort of like separation in your brain.
Yeah, I think like it would have to come down to just being so comfortable with both things. Like, so comfortable with the singing part and so comfortable with the guitar parts that you don't have to think about either or. Your body just kind of goes in robot mode and does it.
Yeah. One of my favorite singer/players is Peter Steele, because I feel like when you're singing and playing bass, when you have to think about rhythm while executing a melody on vocals, that's another line of obstacles.
For sure. Yeah.
But having many different usages of your voice and having all these different inspirations, does a different usage of your voice maybe express a different side of who you are personally? Or being that it's still your voice, it expresses the same thing?
Like, do you mean like switching between screaming and singing kind of thing? I think they're two different expressions of me, definitely. I feel like they're two different people in a sense. Like, so I definitely know when I'm writing a song, okay, I'm going to scream this part. Okay, I'm going to sing this part. This part needs to be more aggressive. This part needs to be more heartfelt. This part's going to be more pretty and light. And so there's definitely like a lot of thought that goes into that part. And yeah, they're two very different realms.
Does the instrumentation kind of like adjust to better suit your voice?
There were some parts in the process for the new album that the guys would change a few things, because I would come in with something that was like completely different from what they were doing, and then they would change what they were doing to kind of match it. They were like, oh, I like what you're doing. Okay, let's kind of follow you a little bit more than like what we were originally doing. So sometimes, but not a lot of the time.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome conversation. And I cannot wait to hear more with this new single out, Ruthless Bloodline. Just what else could we be expecting from Lutharo? I know you got the upcoming tour with Paladin. That's going to be awesome. And shout out to Taylor and Alex from them as well. Super awesome guys. And that's a kick-ass show too. Like, is there just what else could we be expecting from Lutharo in the near future?
Well, new album. New album, new merch, new music videos, hopefully more touring, more of the same, but a lot more of it.
I like that. That's a good slogan. More of the same, but a lot more of it. That's a t-shirt design. Call your merch.
Yes.
Yeah. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Lutharo. Be sure to check out their new single, Ruthless Bloodlines. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.